What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Love Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Wilson, and I'm joined as always by my esteemed co-host, Dexter J. Tucker.
What's going on, fam? How y'all feel?
And this is the podcast where we have unscripted conversations with millennials about relationships and dating. I hope you guys are having a great start to your week. Summertime is here. The sun is out. So, the guns is out. My guns are almost they're under construction. They're under construction. They ain't there yet, Dexter. They on their way. I'm a cash in my Pandemic Express card to be the reason why summer body wasn't all the way there yet. Yeah. But how you been feeling?
I've been good, man. I've been good. My wife started doing I told you I was doing the model Gundams. Like she's doing like the model Legos now. And she's doing like they have them like per city. So like she just did one for I forgot for which one she did it for. And now she got this one from Las Vegas. So I'm like, oh, so we both got our own little self-care routine going on. So I'm vibing with it.
Cool. That's what's up. Yeah, I'm sticking with the yoga, getting out there, doing my jogging still. For those who this is your first time, welcome. We just like having conversations about relationships and dating, talk about what's going on in the space for millennials. There's a lot going on as always. But last week, we had an episode where we talked about how your core values actually make you better in the dating space. So if you missed that one, please pause this one. Go listen to that because that episode is going to give you some really key foundational kind of things that you can do for yourself that will help you be better in your current relationship or in your next relationship. So we talked about core values. Also, we had our first wellness group meeting last week. How did you enjoy that? What was that experience like for you?
It was dope. It was dope just being in a group full of people that are on the same journey of like wanting to be better for themselves for the future that they have planned ahead. So it's just dope to just see people just wanting to be better and do it collectively in a community. And it just felt good. It just felt good.
Yeah. For those who are unaware, we recently started the Flip the Script Wellness Group where you can get resources, you can get support, you can get evidence-based strategies for how to do relationships better. And so if you're interested in that, if you want to be a part of a group with other like-minded millennials who are just trying to do it right and are trying to grow with people instead of trying to go on that journey by yourself, head on over to ftswellnessgroup.com/community. And that's where you can join us. We meet every Sunday at 8 p.m. And we just have conversations about relationships and we get we get to the nitty gritty and we try to change some things in our own lives. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with these great conversations. I have another good guest. I can't wait to get him in here. Hold on. Let me go ahead and hit all right. So guest, introduce yourself.
What's going on, everybody? First and foremost, such a privilege and an honor to be here. I'm excited to be here tonight to get to talk about something that I normally, don't talk about a lot just because people don't ask me, although I am married. But anyway, it's a whole different story. But my name is Mike Nelson. I'm a 32-year-old entrepreneur who happens to speak. And so I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to travel the country, high schools, colleges, coaching speakers now. So I think relationships are key to everything in life, whether you're trying to open up your own business. Of course, if you're in a relationship with a partner or a significant other, relationships, as I like to say, are another form of currency. So I'm definitely excited to be here tonight and dive in.
Definitely. And if you guys, Mike was the first speaking coach that I ever hired. So the reason why I can tell my relationship story so well is because I had really great coaching. So if you're looking for a speaker coach, go ahead and follow him on everything he does because he's really knowledgeable, really personable, and what he says gets results. That's all I got to say. We won't even talk about, I know we're not here for that, but we're not going to talk about the money we were able to make during the pandemic speaking. So I don't want to get into that, but that's a podcast. That's a whole nother podcast. But so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little get to know you segment. So first and foremost, what is your favorite food? What is your favorite drink?
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh, okay. Oh, favorite food. I'm kind of seasonal. I be like, it just depends on the season of life that I'm in. I want to say, well, right now, I know you guys are talking about going, getting your summer body right. So I've hired a trainer, and I've been eating clean. So on my bad days, my favorite food is pizza. That's my favorite food on my bad days. When I'm doing my routine, my favorite go-to meal, super heavy into protein, is you go to Chipotle, you get a bowl, you get the chicken, the steak, and all that. So that's kind of my healthy meal. So that's kind of I want to say, on a good day and a bad day, those are my favorite food. Now, when it comes to drinks, on a bad day, I'm Pepsi. I'm Pepsi to the day I die. I'm talking about I'm gonna just be Pepsi'd out. My trainer's like, Mike, you cannot drink. I said, bro, if you think for 1 second I'm about to go the rest of my life and not have a Pepsi, somebody done told you wrong. So that is my all-time favorite drink, Pepsi. And I know that y'all gonna say I'm a little kid, but when I say I love chocolate milk, I love chocolate milk to the day I die. So those are my two favorite drinks. But I thought that this was, because I see him laughing at me, I thought that this was a no judgment podcast, but it's all good though.
No judgment.
All right. So next question: I have to start asking this, because I've been put on blast by some people that they don't watch Netflix and they don't watch Hulu. So do you watch Netflix or Hulu?
Very sparingly. So a lot of times what Mia and my wife do, we like to watch it together. So there's certain shows that we like to watch together. But Netflix, in Hulu, it's 50 million different things. I get overwhelmed just by trying to look at it. I'm like, who has time to watch all this? Like I just don't have the time to be watching all this. Like, I know people, bro, they watch 2 and 3 and 4 shows at a time. I'm like, look, my brain cannot compute that. I'm one show at a time, and then we'll move forward. Just a couple, I think it was during the pandemic, first time in my life I ever watched Scandal. It was life-changing. I said, where the heck was all the gladiators when Scandal came out? I feel like nobody ever told me. So I was upset about that, man, but it's all good though. Yeah, so I do watch Netflix, Hulu, but sparingly.
Okay. Gotcha. So what is something that Mike does to disconnect from the world and to take care of himself?
That's a great question. One thing I do to connect, and again, it ain't really disconnecting because it kind of counts for my personal development, but I'm an avid reader, whether it's or just information, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's an audio book. That's one thing. Something recent that I do is I love to go get massages, so that's something that I love to go do. Go ahead and get you a little massage. And then this thing that I picked up, I guess it happens when I kind of got married, is that typically on Fridays, I haven't done it in a while. We just got somebody to clean our crib. I know I'm getting a little bougie now, but anyway, that's a whole different story. But I love to be able to, on Fridays, I pop in my AirPods, and I never thought, this is how you know when you marry and you start getting old. I never thought that this would be me. I love to clean the bathroom. Like, it's my time where I get the products. I'm talking about, I'm in the store. I'm getting excited about bathroom products. I'm like, yo, this toilet bowl cleaner,
yes,
you got to try it. It's fire. So that's a weird thing that I've learned over the years. Like this, I actually like to do it. I pop in my AirPods and I go to town. So I know that's a little strange, but those are my self-care things.
It's not strange, because like on Saturdays, that's what I do. Like I go in our master bathroom. And I'm like, okay, I turn the music on, and then I'm like, I went to Target and I bought this Method shower cleaner. Change the game.
A game changer. I'm in there like, yo, just leave me alone. Just give me an hour.
Definitely. So that's a little bit about our guest. Got to hear a little bit about his life, some of his favorite beverages. Like you said, this is a no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. So hopefully you guys get to know a little bit more about him. But something like, we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation. Something that I realized, and listen, a lot of people don't catch these things, but I catch them. Within the first, so this podcast has been recording for 9 minutes and 30 seconds. You've mentioned that you're married 3 times. That's a big deal. Yeah. Listen, there are people who are full married and don't even mention their spouse.
Like, I know you was married.
A really wise man told me that you will know how married someone is within the first 3 minutes to talk to them, because it's going to come up.
Wow, for sure.
And of course, people sometimes get upset and they're like, "Well, you always talking about your spouse." Well, that's
who else am I supposed to talk about? Just saying.
Right. But that's like your other half. Like that's someone that you committed to for a lifetime. So inevitably, they're going to show up in your conversation. And one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing right now for millennials is we are starting to get into an age where like we're 30 plus. We're 30 and up now. Like we're not kids. We're not dating in junior high. We are having full lives. We have responsibilities and we have expectations that we have to uphold to live productive lives in our communities. But one of the things that has often been told by so many people is that you cannot have it all. I'm sorry, like we've been told as kids, you have to choose one or the other. I don't know about y'all, but when I used to go to the grocery store and I wanted a box of cereal, my mom was like, you can't pick both of them. You got to have one or the other. We would go down the juice aisle. I'd have orange juice in one hand and I'd have apple juice in the other. And she would say, you can't have both. You got to choose one or the other. And I think this mentality has been injected in us in a way that it has even trickled into how we do our grown-up adult lives. One of the things that I hear so often, especially from guys, is that I'm trying to get my professional life together before I start dating. So before we get there, we have 3 married men on the line on this video podcast today.
Yep.
And so I believe that it is possible. So let's go ahead and start reeling it back in. So when you guys were dating, Mike, what role, what conversations, what did it look like to try to discuss your professional ambitions, but while still managing a relationship with your wife?
Yeah.
Going back to like beginning stage.
Oh yeah, so I have to catch you up a little bit because I've been knowing my wife since I'm 32, so I've been knowing my wife since I was 12, and we've been dating since we were 16, and so it's been a journey at this. So I think early on, I think that me and my wife are kind of, while we're different, we're both the same, and we're both very ambitious people. So I think up front we talked about certain things that we were trying to do, goals, dreams, aspirations. So I think we kind of had that conversation from the front of it. It's like, hey, these are the things that we are trying to get accomplished, together. And then also there's some professional things that we want to actually get accomplished. So I think one of the main things is often as early as possible. Again, I always try to relate a lot of things to business because that's just the space that I'm in. It's almost like communicating with your customer early and often as possible. You want to be having these conversations because, again, you don't want to get, and trust me, I done been there. You don't want to get caught in the dark about something. You like, wait a minute, I didn't even know that was going to be a challenge or a problem. So if you have somebody, I think the expectation needs to be clear. Now, I believe, like you, Joe, I believe that you can have it all. But you may not be able to have it all at the same exact time. But I do believe that you can have it all. I believe that you can have a fire marriage. I can believe that you can have a fire career. You can have your kids on fire. You can go to church. I just believe that because I'm like, well, what the heck is the point of going through all this and doing all this if I can't have it all? So I think my mom gave me like trauma. She's like, look, when you go into the store, you can only get one. So now I go into the store, I'm getting 2 and 3 of them at a time. I'm like, let me get that one. 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 Yo, supersize that one. Because, it's like you could only get one. But I think when it comes to our relationships, I think that, whether it's marriage or whether it's just being in a relationship, I believe that you can have the exact relationship that you want, but it really has to be intentional. Like it has to be boundaries that are set, and it has to be conversations that happen early, often. Early, often, EOF, early, often, and frequently.
Frequently. Definitely. So Dexter, what was that process like for you, balancing professional life and your relationship?
Honestly, it was easy. And the reason why is because, it was easy, but from the outside looking in, you would think it was difficult because me and my wife, when we were dating, we were in 2 separate states. So I was in Georgia, she was in Texas, and at the same time, we were in 2 completely different time zones. On top of that, but it's just like Mike said, like all you have to do is communicate early, often, and frequently. That's all. That's because that's all we had. So I didn't have the opportunity to be able to go and see her real quick. Like she's down the street. Like I was always talking to her, but it didn't feel like a task. So like for me, like I've always traveled for work. Always. So like when I was in Georgia, I was all across Georgia. Like I would be in one city from one day to the next or 1 week to the next. And I would always tell her, what I did was, and we do this even to this day, I would have our iCloud calendars and I would sync mine with hers. So that way she can see what I had going on. Like, hey, I would send her calendar invites, hey, this is what I'm doing on this day, just so you know I'm gonna be in this city. And what she would do is like, okay, what hotel are you staying in? And I was like, well, I haven't figured out which one I want to stay. She would actually help me find a hotel to stay in. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look into that one and book that one with the company or whatever. So like she helped me in that because she knew the goals that I had in mind and what I was seeking to do. And she helped make it easier because she had her own thing going on, which that's a whole nother conversation too. She had her own thing going on. And I was doing my own thing. So we were both busy, but we were both helping each other at the same time. So it was easy.
Okay. So Mike, I like to try to help the fellas out. Like in the relationship space, it's heavily dominated by women, and men don't feel like they're represented well enough, or their point of view is not represented as equal.
Yeah, Kevin Samuels now, right? Or he don't count.
he really listen. He got his own. Like he got a whole wave going. But here's one thing. In our society, we have this idea that men are supposed to be providers, protectors, priests of our home. But a lot of guys in their 20s and 30s may not be where they want to be professionally and financially. And as a result, they put off making long-term commitments to women that they're dating. So for instance, they'll have a girlfriend, but it'll be 3, 4, 5, even decade long. So let's talk about this. Do men have to have it all together before they decide to make that commitment to marry the woman in their life?
No, I do not think that you have it all together, because nobody ever has it all together. But I do that there are some standards that you do need to have if you think that you're going to get in a relationship or take that next step and come into covenant with somebody. Because I think sometimes, and again, I know that the lady's gonna kill me, right? But I think sometimes it's almost as if sometimes people are expecting people to come perfectly wrapped in a perfect package. And I'm like, that's just not how it works. Like, you yourself are not perfect. So why would you think that I and myself, I'm gonna be perfect? Now, again, you want to make sure that people aren't crazy. You want to make sure that people, have a good credit score. You want to make sure that people are ambitious, have great core values that you guys mesh. But this notion of that, hey, you got to come to the table and you got to have every single last thing checked off on the box. Now, again, if you're with somebody and they're in their 30s, I'm just saying, for me, if he, if he treats you right, you guys have good core values, energy is great. I'm assuming that he lives, I must just say at least an apartment, y'all. I'm just gonna say at least an apartment. He got his own spot, got his own transportation. Even if he don't, we got Uber now. So even if he don't, he got a good paying job, or he's an entrepreneur, whatever the case, I'm saying that's a good baseline to start. I'm like, I don't see anything that's wrong with that. But the greatest challenge and the greatest mistake that we make, again, is assuming that people are supposed to come perfectly packaged. We all are in development. Like, we all have to continue to grow. So the person I'm 32. The person I'm not even the same person I was at 29. Now, I do still have some things I'm working on, but to make the assumption that the person that you meet today, they just supposed to be like that forever and they supposed to be like perfectly packaged, I'd be like, who thought of this stuff? Like, who the heck is giving this relationship idea stuff? Look, this is the thing that burns me up, and then I'm getting off my soapbox. This is the thing that burns me up the most. I don't know where we got this idea from, is that, oh, fellas, when you meet somebody in 3 months, you supposed to know if she the one. I said, what? Who the heck is giving this advice? First of all, let's just be honest. The first probably 6 months to a year, you're not even farting in front of the person that you rock with. You ain't going to the bathroom in front of them. Like, you watching the way that you eat. You are meeting their representative. This is not even the real them. You got to dig and be with somebody over an extended period of time to start seeing the little things that they do that actually annoy you. Like, oh, I didn't even notice 2 months ago. Like, I didn't notice that he or she, like, they when they eat, like my wife says, this irritates her. When I eat, with the fork, I scrape it against my teeth. It's like something that it's a natural habit. She can't stand it, but she wouldn't have known that probably in the first 2 months. So we got to get over this notion and stop putting all this pressure on ourselves. Bruh, you got to know. I'm like, yo, now some people, they do know. That's totally fine. You know, I got a buddy of mine, he met his wife the last semester of college or school. They got 3 kids. They got a banging family. But I'm like, let's stop acting like that's supposed to be the normal thing. You are going into covenant before God. And you supposed to know in 3 months. Now, praise God if you do. But I'm just saying, let's stop this notion that, yo, you got to have everything quick. It got to be now. I'm like, yo, you may need to give it some time. I know for me, not that I want to wait as long as possible, but I want to make sure I'm the right person and you're the right person as well.
Yeah, like it's pretty much like you have to count the cost. Like you have to count the cost, consider the decision, because like what you've mentioned already, covenant is very different from these contractual marriages that a lot of people are entering into.
Right.
They're relationships where you have to have bullet point 1 through 10 in order to qualify.
1 through 500.
1 through 500. And if you miss any of these, now I can rip it up, and I'm gonna go try to find somebody else who could potentially get all these 499 things on the list. So Jackson, what do you think? Like, what would you say? Like, how would you encourage somebody who is thinking, like, especially the fellas, that I don't have all the finances in the world, but I still want to find a wife? Like, what kind of encouragement would you give them?
I would say get out of your own way. Get out your own way, because when I proposed to my wife, I didn't quote unquote have it all together. I didn't have the finances that I was aiming to have. I didn't have the house I was aiming to have. I didn't have any of that when I proposed to my wife. It's because we put this, just like Mike said, we put this idea in our head. This is what it has to be. And then next thing you know, a decade done passed and you still dating and calling somebody your girlfriend, and you in your 30s. You know what I'm saying? And you're in your 40s and you call somebody your girlfriend, you know. And I think that the thing we have to remember is, like, there has to be progress in the process. So as long as you're progressing, you're fine. As long as you see the fruit, you're good. That's all that has to be. You know, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have the 6-figure salary right then and there just to make it happen. And one thing I found out being married to my wife and her being a life partner, which is the key thing in all of this, is that I didn't achieve a lot of the things I have now until I married her. And that's the part that a lot of people don't understand, is that a lot of stuff you may not even achieve until you actually get into covenant with that person, because there are things that are attached to them that you have to have from them in order to get to the thing that you want to have. I can honestly say, sincerely say that if I didn't have my spouse in my life and I didn't propose to her when I did, when I knew it was time, like I knew it was time to propose. I knew, there was no doubt in my mind. You know, I didn't know that by doing that there would be so much I would gain from that, and that I would glean from her as my spouse from just proposing to her and getting married and being intentional. And so I would just say to anybody, like, get out of your own way. Get out of your way. Stop focusing on what you don't have and look forward to what you will have if you just follow through with the thing that you already know that you need to do.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, the right marriage is a cheat code in life. Yes. Like, it really is. Like, and listen, I didn't just say marriage. No, because some people have some trash marriages. People get married 6, 7, 8 times. Like, listen, marriage is not a cheat code. The right marriage is a cheat code. And so Mike, entrepreneurship is on the upswing, especially among millennials. Forbes put out an article late last year saying, it was almost like a State of the Union, telling all these CEOs that if you want the millennials to work for you, you can't talk to them any kind of way, because they will quit on a dime. They have no loyalty. We are loyal to ourselves first and foremost, because we can't see ourselves working 20 years for somebody and then getting the boot, which I think a lot of people during this pandemic saw. A lot of people's professional lives changed during the pandemic. And I think, especially with millennials venturing into the entrepreneurship world. It's kind of the cool thing to do. People don't realize how tough it is, but people are still trying to get their feet wet in the entrepreneurship space, but they also don't want to just have an empire. They want someone to share it with. So Mike, I don't remember if you say that you got fired or you quit your job.
Well, I got fired. I was never gonna quit. I got fired.
You got fired. And so what was that conversation like with, were you married at the time?
Yeah. I was married.
So what was that conversation like where you are now about to go in a different direction than what you normally have? Like, what was that conversation like with your wife?
Yeah, so she was the first person I called, obviously, and I told her, I said, hey, you know, I was let go, and she was like, what? Like, she didn't panic, of course, but she was, you know, in the back of her mind, I'm sure that she's thinking like, okay, so what's going to happen now? And my wife also works too, so, you know, it kind of was like this thing where I ended up, and I got fired from my last 2 jobs unjustly. It wasn't like I did something crazy. I was like, I don't even know why this stuff is happening. But I was speaking, right? And so I was like, man, maybe this is like a sign, you know, where I need to just test it out and I need to try it out. So we had a conversation like, you know what? I really, you know, been playing with the speaking thing. You know, I've been able to get some gigs, get some paid ones, get non-paid ones. You know, I'm thinking about maybe I should do this full time. And again, what you said, bro, was so key and so important. There's no way possible I will be able to make the kind of income and impact if I wasn't married, because there's too many things that. Don't get me started. I forget my wallet and keys every day. I lose them every single day. My wife always finds them. That's a whole different podcast. So I wouldn't have been able to even do half the things that I'm doing now because of her. But I think, you know, she just said, okay, well, my wife is on, if you ever taken the assessment, it's the D on there. So she's a high D. So her thing is, okay, what are the facts? What are we going to do? I'm fine with you trying to do this entrepreneurship thing. You know, you're trying to go out and speak and provide. I'm fine with that. But don't just have it be fluff. Like, it has to be like a set plan. What are you going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Like, what are going to be some things that you're going to be doing? But I think the biggest thing that my wife knows is that I'm going to work extremely hard. So the trust was there. Like, I know for a fact that you might struggle, but at some point I know that you're going to figure it out. So in the meantime, while you're figuring out, I'm going to make sure that I hold this down. I'm going to make sure that I do X, Y, Z. I know it's somebody that's going to be on here saying, oh, bro, you let your wife pay, like your wife is paying the bills. Absolutely. But you know, the crazy thing about it is that them tables always turn. So when I get a check in the mail, my wife gets excited and says, oh my God, I just want to open it. I said, go for it. She's like, this is what we doing? I'm like, well, you know what? I told you that your investment would actually pay off, you know, eventually. And so I think, man, one of the key and the greatest things, man, is, again, EOF, early, often, and frequently, like having that communication about, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. I would love to be able to have your opinion. And how our marriage is that, you know, I don't have a problem. I'm not this super alpha male. Like, I don't have a problem letting my wife lead, like, because naturally she's a leader. I don't have a problem with it. I play the back seat. I play the back row any day. As a matter of fact, contrary to popular belief, because I'm a speaker, it seems like I'm very outgoing, but I'm more so on the reserve side. It's just that when, you know, I get on stage, I just become a different person, but I'm more so on the reserve side. So I don't have a problem letting her lead. And so we come together and decisions is made. And she says, I'll trust you enough with not just your future, but our future, that I know that you're going to make the best decisions and choices. But it's because I was making those decisions and choices early on in our, you know, marriage and things like that in the relationship. And so sometimes it's like, yo, dudes be like, I want to quit my job. I want to leave. And, you know, wife is like, well, I mean, you've been playing around. You've been saying that you want to do this for years, but you haven't taken any steps. You haven't joined the program. You haven't done anything. But now you're telling me that you want to leave your job? Negro, please. So I think that that's something, you know, it's a touchy subject when you have to balance between, okay, am I going to go into this thing full time, or am I going to stay at this 9 to 5? And how am I still going to manage to tell my wife, like, this is what we're doing?
Right. So think about it. All three of us on here are communicators and we communicate fairly often. But for the average person, it may not be as easy to articulate what you're feeling, what you're experiencing in a way that's clear and concise while you have all of these nerves. So when someone is trying to communicate, what would be some tips or some strategies you think someone could use to be able to verbalize some of these things to someone they care about, that, hey, I am moving in this direction. I may not be able to spend as much time with you as I used to because I'm trying to build this castle.
Yeah.
How can someone start to have these conversations and get it out of their mouth? Because think about it, we're having these thoughts and conversations in our head. The other person doesn't know what's going on, especially if you're dating. They don't know. They don't. We tend to say that we wish our partners could read our mind, but they can't. So how do they get it from their mind to talking to somebody that they care about the nuances, about the changes, about the different dynamics of them trying to pursue their professional dreams and ambitions?
Yeah. I think, again, early, often, and frequently, but I think most important, being able to, like, me and my wife had this conversation, like, you know, I am a speaker. I speak so many times a week, but sometimes I even have to take my own advice and say, okay, Mike, you have to slow down and not forget her. So I would have to make sure I purposely include her in the plan. Because I think a lot of times we have it in our mind, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. And the wife or whomever is like, wait a minute. I thought that this was a we. I did not decide to get married so that you can make all the choices and I don't even have a say so. And then we get frustrated, like, well, it seems like, man, that you're not supporting me. And it's like, well, I would support you, but you didn't let me know what was going on. I didn't have an input in the plan. You ain't let me know where you was going. You ain't let me know how long this process was going to be. And again, we don't know how long this process is going to be, obviously. But again, we didn't even have a conversation and you didn't even give me the right to be included. You took away my right to have an opinion by not telling me and by leaving me out. And I think that's the most important thing. So again, if you're out there nervous, if you have to have that conversation, please do yourself a favor and have it early. Again, I'm not talking about something that I write in the book. I'm talking from experience. Have it early. I'm the kind of person, I do not like confrontation, right? So my biggest thing is, I'm not trying to have no confrontation, right? Now, my wife is for all of the confrontation. My wife is like, look, I mean, I'm for it. So that's my language that you speak. And so I'm all for it. I'm like, I don't want no confrontation. So one of the things I had to do early on, and I'm still learning this, is to try. And again, she's here now. She would probably tell you, like, yo, he's gotten better, but he still has a way to go. Is just try to communicate again early on as honestly as you can. Like, just say, hey, it's going to be a rough. Now, I don't know if they're going to go for it, but it may be a rough 6 months, a rough 2 years. I don't know if they're going to go for it, but I'm saying at least get it out. So this way, when it comes up, because trust me, it's going to come up again. When it comes up in a year from now, yo, we've had this conversation instead of you holding it in. So sometimes you holding it in is doing it more of a damage in the long run. So don't kick the can down the road. Just go ahead and lay out the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So Dex, I'm gonna ask you this question first, and Mike, I want you to kind of piggyback off of it. So, like I said, we are 30 plus. Millennials are anywhere from, I think, 26 to upwards of 38, 39 as of this year.
Age always changing. I'd be like, what in the world is it?
It's a sliding scale. Like we gotta go as the years go. So I think there is, personally, if you value relationship and you want to eventually get married, I believe that there's a time frame that you have for that to happen optimally, so that you can have a full experience. Research shows that millennials are getting married much later, upwards of close to 35 for millennials. Between 32 and 35 is when most millennials are starting to get married and pursue marriage. And a lot of the reasons why people wait so long is so that they can get financially or professionally secured. What are your thoughts, Dexter, on someone maybe putting off love? Because you're still, listen, here's the other thing. These people are still dating. They're just not getting married. They're not having
dating and doing everything in between.
And everything in between. So Dexter, what are your thoughts on people who are maybe putting off the commitment to take the relationship to the next level in exchange for making sure that they are secure financially and professionally?
My question is to that is like, what's the end game? What's the end game? Like, what's on the other side of what you're trying to do? Because it's like, for me, I've had that exact same thought. I've been there. And I've been like, well, I'm not going to get married until this is when my heart was broken. So, I was trying to avoid all of that just by working, but that's a whole nother conversation. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pursue all of this, but it's like, is it ever going to be enough? Because you'll get to the end of that and you'll be like, okay, this is cool, but I want more and I want more and I want more. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but I realized that ambition was my drug and I was trying to treat my heartache through ambition. And I realized that I couldn't continue to do that. And it's like, okay, and if I meet Mrs. Wright, which I did, if I meet her and I just want to date and she's like, well, that's not what I want to do, and we part ways, and the next guy she meets realizes that quickly, like, hey, this is it right here, and he marries her, I've missed out on forever because I wanted to see what right now looked like a little bit later from now. So I would say you have to figure out what the why is and what the end game is. You have to sincerely ask yourself that question. And most of the time you're going to realize that I'm missing out on forever because I'm trying to figure out what to do right now, and realize that the answer is right there in front of you and you just got to figure it out. And once you do, you'll realize that, hey, I'm wasting time.
What you think, Mike? Exchanging love for professional success and ambition?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most fascinating things because, again, it's like you'll see, for example, and I think a lot of guys, they just use this as an excuse not to go ahead and take that next step. If marriage is, you said that's the end goal, but a lot of guys, as you said, they'll date, they'll do everything, they'll break hearts, they'll do every single thing except get married to this person who has been there, ride or die. They may have kids together. They done went to church together. You done met their whole entire family, but yet and for all, they'll kick the can down the road. And I'm saying, well, what exactly is the holdup? Like, what exactly are you waiting for? And again, it goes back to that thing of, yo, I gotta wait for the right time and the right moment. And as we know in business, there's no such thing as the right time, the right moment. It's just not existent. Listen, if I waited, whether it's launching a course, whether it's doing something, if I always waited till every single duck was in a row, I would have absolutely zero accomplished. But it's when you take that next step. Now, again, I'm saying, have your bag secure as much as you possibly can. Have all of that in order as much as you possibly can. So I want to be clear. We're not saying to ignore all that. That's not what we're not saying. Like, you don't care about, like, just go ahead and, no, we're not saying it. We're saying get it to the point where you, as much as you possibly can, but at some point you're going to have to be able to take the next step. Because again, why would I sit here and say, you know what, man, I know I should get married, financially I'm okay. But isn't this the beautiful thing about coming into covenant with somebody is that, hey, we get to figure this thing out together. Although I am the man, I am the priest, I am the prophet of the home, but also I'm not going to take that off of you as well, as far as you being able to bring your gift to the table and we can figure this thing out together. I think so many times, whether it's we lean on one side, it's like, okay, well, the woman has to do all of this, the man has to do all this. I'm like, well, wait a minute, aren't we partners in this together for life? Like, we ride together, die together, bad boys for life. I'm like, why is it so one-sided? You feel me? I'm like, why is it so one-sided? Aren't we supposed to come together? And I think for me, I just was like, okay, so it wasn't like this big thing. People always make it like, how did you know that it was time? I can't explain. Like you just kind of know. Like, I thought to myself logically, like, okay, we've been together since we were 16. I got married at 24, right? So my thing was, Mike, you cannot get married while you're in college. That's going to be too much of a distraction for me personally. That's just me personally. I say, yo, that's going to be too much. My second thing was, all right, when you get out, you have to have some kind of job where you're making. Here's the crazy part about it. 8 years ago, I thought, yo, when I was making 40 grand, bro, you couldn't tell me nothing. You couldn't tell me that. I thought I was the man. I think the most I ever made at a job was like 45 grand. I was that guy. You couldn't tell me nothing. So I said, all right, I'm going to stay here for a few years, make sure I get stable. And, which I knew we weren't. If we're still together, I'm like, all right, Mike, then go ahead and be able to make that move. Why wouldn't you do it? And again, sometimes like we overthinking. Like, yo, stop overthinking. This girl has been with you through thick and thin, through all of your dumb mistakes, through all that. She has been ride or die. She has been loyal. She has loaned you money. She's helped take care of your kids that's not even her kids. What in the world are you waiting for at this point? So yeah.
Definitely. And it's like you said at the very beginning, you can have both. You really can. You can really have both. It takes communication. It takes being open, honest about what it is that you're doing. And like Dexter said, having an end game, like what direction are we going and how do we know we've gotten there? That's one thing that I ask people in therapy is like, how will you know that you've reached these goals? Like what would it look like? Yeah. And because a lot of people aren't taking time as they're building to say, hey, what does it look like when the house is finished? But people are just building. And they're like, well, I can date a little bit, or I'll just keep someone for those nights where I need some company, that kind of thing. And people are missing out. So Mike, someone may be listening and they may be listening thinking like, hey, I've been having some struggles trying to balance dating and trying to get my professional career in order. What is one thing that you would recommend or suggest that they do so that they can have balance in both arenas of their life?
Yeah. Welcome to the world of those who are successful. This is a part of the game. You're going to have to be able to do both. It's never, especially if you're rocking with somebody that you're in love with or that you plan on marrying, it's not, okay, one or the other. You have to be able to do both because at the same time, yo, God has blessed me to be able to build this incredible career. And as I always say, I'm just getting started. So I'm like, yo, that's my baby. I'm like, I love this to life, but also I agreed to come into covenant with another human being. And it's not fair to her to say, you know what, you always have to take a backseat to this because I have to do X, Y, Z. So you have to be able to do both. So one piece of advice that I would just say in order for you to be able to get, to be able to have both and feel like, that I'm not cheating on one or the other is, again, be able to include, especially that person inside of your plans. Like be able to include them. Like, hey, even if you don't, and now I'm giving away some of my secrets, though. But even if you know for a fact, like, they probably won't care, or for your fact in your mind that you're already going to make this choice, just ask the question, like, hey, what do you think about this? Watch, and you'll start to see, oh, this is what I think that you should actually do. And now the person, they naturally are able to feel included. So guess what? When it comes time for you to be able to have a tough conversation about this is the direction I feel like I'm going in, or I need to be able to put in X amount of hours, it's not, oh my God, you always doing X, Y, and Z. It just seems like we don't ever spend enough time. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be seasons in life where, one seems like it's going a little bit before the other. But I think if you have these conversations early and often, you'll always be able to reel back. As I told my wife before, that I thought that she'd think that I was playing. I said, if I had to give up all of this stuff, speaking, I promise you, for you, I do it. I do it in a heartbeat. I would do it in a heartbeat. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't be shaking and quaking and I'd be crying, but I said for you, I would do it in a heartbeat. So for me, the person, now this is when you in covenant. Now I ain't talking now. If we in a relationship, I'm like, bruh, I'm gonna communicate as much as I can, but I don't even know if we gonna be together in 2 years. So I don't want to end up throwing his career away where if we ain't even gonna be together in 2 years. So let's not even go that route. But if you're in covenant with somebody, that person always has to be able to come first because, do you know how many things that my ideas and things that my wife has given me over the years? Like, I think that you should do it this way. Man, I remember my wife stayed up on her birthday to do brochures that I was doing at a program. Trifold brochures. I'm dating myself now, right? She stayed up on her birthday to be able to make sure them brochures actually got done. So again, like I'm making sure that I'm always trying to do both in a spirit of excellence. But also give yourself grace. Like sometimes, like you're going to miss it. Sometimes, you're going to forget a dinner. Sometimes that you're not going to be able to make it. Sometimes that you're going to have to say no to that client because I have to say yes to my wife. That's a part of the game. Being able to balance the two. So if you're out there saying, how in the heck do I get this done? Welcome to the big leagues.
Hey, and there you have it. That's this week's Flip the Script. Mike, thank you for joining us this week.
Absolutely, man. I definitely appreciate it.
Please let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
Yes. So, yes, you can find me. I'm on Instagram at Mike the Motivator. I'm on Facebook at Mike Nelson. Now it's 50 million Mike Nelson. So I'm the guy that has the glasses. So you just gotta make sure that you just keep scrolling because there's a whole bunch of us out there. I'm on LinkedIn at Mike Nelson. I'm on Twitter at M Nelson Speaks. I'm on TikTok at Mike the Motivator. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I'm leaving out? www.mikenelsonspeaks.com is my website. Ladies, you can feel free to send all of your hate mail to info@mikenelsonspeaks.com. I know I said something that you probably don't like, but it's all good though. I still love you.
Hey, y'all, I really enjoyed this conversation. Please head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher Podcast, comment, rate, subscribe. If you're in podcast land, please head on over to YouTube at Love Unscripted HD, where you can see the full episode for this show. Also follow Dexter at scholarly_gent. And don't forget, like, if y'all want to be a part of a community that is really trying to grow relationally and we're using evidence-based skills to be able to increase the quality relationships we have and the type of people we date, and also change from the inside first. And if you're wanting to be a part of a group that is moving in that direction, please go over to ftswellnessgroup.com/community. And you can join us on Sundays. So you guys, I thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being a part of this conversation. Listen, we may not have all the answers, but we will have the conversation. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace out.